All right, hey everyone, welcome back. We are diving deep today into all the buzz around the expanded college football playoff. 12 teams.
Big change.
Huge change. And we've got a ton of articles and fan reactions, like tweets, analyses, and honestly,
Feels like people are kind of torn. Right?
yeah, are we ruining the sport with this expansion or what? So we're going to break it all down for you.
Should be interesting. Your sources are pretty diverse.
Totally. Okay, let's just get right to it. Money, big surprise risk. Tons of fans on Twitter are like, this is just a cash grab.
It's a common sentiment for sure. But it's not just about the NCAA getting richer, is it?
No, definitely not.
I mean, look, historically, the money in college football, well, hasn't been exactly shared equally,
Right.
And your research, what does it say? It suggests this whole expansion could actually make it worse, like even more money for the big programs.
So it's about who gets the bigger slice of the pie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what's fueling a lot of this fan frustration.
Makes sense. Now, what about this bye system for the top teams? Fairness on the field, is that even a thing anymore?
Yeah, lots of articles talking about that. Think about it. We used to have the top 4 teams getting a bye in the old format.
Right.
Now it's 12 teams, so 6 teams are sitting out. Changes the whole playoff picture early on.
Oh, absolutely. Some teams are resting up, getting ready, while others are fighting for their lives in those first rounds.
Right.
One article even compared it to the NFL playoffs. They have top seeds with byes too.
Yeah.
But they said because college football has that whole bowl system, the impact of those byes is way different.
Huge difference. And that's why you see some folks on Twitter wondering, does this format really reward the best teams?
Good point.
Or does it just give another advantage to the teams that are already at the top?
Right. Okay, so we've got money, fairness, but what about those rivalry games? Those, the ones you mark on your calendar every single year.
The classics.
Do those even matter anymore in this new world of expanded playoffs?
It's a huge question, and your sources, they definitely hit on that. Some of these tweets reference specific rivalry games. They're saying the outcome just felt different, less important.
Yeah. I even saw a tweet someone said, remember when beating your rival was everything? Now it's like, we'll get them next year, maybe in the playoffs.
Yeah, stakes just aren't as high.
Exactly. So do you think that changes how we watch those games?
Possibly, yeah. If the regular season feels less important, fans might not be as invested,
Right.
Less energy, less excitement all around.
So then what about those Cinderella stories? That smaller school upsets a powerhouse. Are those even possible anymore?
Yeah, a few of your articles actually say this expansion, it's a false promise for smaller teams.
Really?
They say it still favors those big programs. More resources, more talent, the drill.
Yeah, one article pointed out, even with 12 teams, that selection committee, they're still going to prioritize teams with strong records, tough schedules.
Of course.
So a smaller school might have a great season, but if they haven't played the same competition, they get overlooked.
Makes sense. And that leads to the question, are there really more opportunities for upsets?
Right.
Or do we just see the same teams in the championship?
Okay, so let's talk about something else that's got people fired up. Teams making the playoffs without winning their conference championship. What?
Yeah, lots of people feeling like that devalues those championships.
Yeah, totally. You didn't earn it. I saw this tweet. It was like, hold on, you didn't even win your conference, but you're a top seed. What's going on?
Right. It raises some questions about how the seeding works.
Big time.
Because now you've got the selection committee. They're weighing a team's whole season against winning their conference.
So when we talk about body of work, what does that even mean?
It's everything, wins, losses, strength of schedule, even margin of victory.
Wow.
Some argue that matters more than one conference championship game, especially in a longer season.
Okay, so imagine your team has a killer season, maybe even a few upsets, but then, bam, they lose the conference championship.
Heartbreaker.
Would you still want them in the playoffs over a team that actually won their conference?
Ooh, that's the question, right? This new format, it makes us rethink what we value most in college football.
Yeah, it really makes you think. And it's not just about, wins and losses. It's about tradition, what makes college football special.
Right.
And how, I don't know, maybe change can sometimes feel like a loss, even if it's supposed to be progress,
I was actually looking at some tweets from last year's championship game.
Oh, yeah.
And it's crazy how many people were saying stuff like, this just doesn't feel the same anymore, or the magic is gone.
Interesting. Yeah, it's worth thinking about, right? Does a longer season with all these teams competing, does it actually make the championship I don't know, less special.
Yeah, less important, like it's just another game.
Right, not the peak of the season. Exactly. And it feels like the buildup is different too. Before it was, two titans clashing for the title. Now with 12 teams, it feels kind of, I don't know, diluted.
Diluted, yeah, I get that.
Okay, so real talk. Has your own excitement for the championship changed at all? Like, are you less glued to the TV, less caught up in all the hype?
Hmm, that's a good question. And it gets even more interesting when you think about it this way.
Okay, how?
We've been talking about how this format, maybe less excitement for the championship game. But what if it's changing how we see the whole sport?
Whoa, whoa. Okay, explain that.
So we're saying more teams, less excitement, less prestige, all that. But what if that's just like a sign of how we watch sports these days?
Hey, are you saying like our attention spans are just shorter? Like we're so used to constant, I don't know, stimulation that a longer playoff just doesn't do it for us anymore?
It's possible, right? Think about it. Streaming, social media, we've got content coming at us 24/7. Maybe that traditional build up to one big game, maybe it doesn't hit the same anymore.
That's a really good point. And you know what? A lot of these articles, they talk about something we haven't even touched on.
What's that?
The players. These are young guys juggling school, football, and now they're playing even more games.
Yeah, that's huge. It often gets overlooked in all this. More games, more travel, more strain on these athletes.
Yeah, physically and mentally. One article talked about the risk of injuries. They're already pushing their bodies to the limit.
And it's not just physical. Think about the mental pressure. You're competing at the highest level, you've got school, and now an even longer season.
It's a lot. I mean, are we even doing right by these student athletes? Or are we just like pushing them too far for this big playoff picture?
Yeah, it's something we got to think about. What kind of support do they have to handle this? Are they getting the resources they need to stay healthy?
Physically and mentally. And it's not just the players, right? Coaches, support staff, they're feeling it too. More work, more time away from their families.
Absolutely, it affects everyone.
Yeah.
And we got to consider that when we're talking about this new format, the long-term effects.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot of potential downsides, but are there any positives here? I mean, is there anything good about this expansion?
Well, one thing that pops up in your sources is opportunity.
Opportunity.
Yeah, with 12 teams, you've got schools who might never have had a shot before.
Right.
They get to compete, get some national attention.
Yeah, that's exciting for them and their fans, really.
Absolutely. And for the players, especially those hoping to go pro, more games means more scouts watching.
More exposure.
Exactly. Could even help them get drafted.
Okay, so more opportunities, that's a plus. But I gotta say, I'm still not sold.
Yeah, and that's the big question, isn't it?
Is this?
Is this good for college football? Or are we giving up too much? The players, the rivalries, that championship magic, all for more games and more money.
It's a tough one, and at the end of the day, it's up to each of us, the fans, to decide what matters most. Does this new format, does it fit with that?
Yeah, I mean, that's what makes it so interesting. There's no right or wrong answer. It all depends on what you value as a fan.
It's tricky, right? Like, we all want what's best for the sport, but what does that even mean?
Right, and that's where it gets interesting because you've got to ask yourself,
Yeah.
what do you, as a fan, what do you really care about?
Exactly. Okay, so as we wrap up, what's the takeaway here? What should fans be thinking about?
I think the big question is, at the end of the day, did this expansion actually make the sport better?
Yeah.
Or did we kind of lose something along the way?
Did we? All right, so everyone listening, think about what you love about college football. Is it, those crazy upsets, or those big rivalry games, the history,
Yeah, the traditions.
the traditions, or maybe it's, that one championship game that just defines the whole season.
That feeling, right?
Yeah, whatever it is for you, hold on to it. Because college football's changing, that's for sure.
Evolving, you could say.
And we, the fans, we get to decide, what we want it to look like.
What we value.
Yes, exactly. So that's it for our deep dive today, but we want to hear from you. Hit us up on social media. Tell us what you think, what stood out to you, and what you think the future holds for college football. Until next time, keep the conversation going.